What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. I'm your host, Jake. We're doing another weekly recap. We're actually going to start things off with some very unfortunate and very sad news. 11-time NBA champion and one of the all-time greats, not only on the basketball court, but also off the basketball court, from our Boston Celtics center, Bill Russell. At this point, may not even been an hour at this point. Bill Russell has passed away. We don't quite know the cause yet, but his family released a statement saying he died peacefully. He was 88 years old. He was an incredible person and an incredible player. 11 championships. He only had enough fingers to fit all of his rings. He was ahead of his time. Obviously, it was a different game back then, but he was putting up 50 points a game, 30 rebounds a game, 20 blocks a game. He was an incredible player, a pioneer in the game of basketball. He was the first ever African-American head coach in NBA history. He did a lot for civil rights. An absolute legend on and off the court. He will be sorely missed. Unfortunately, he passed away. I just wanted to open up the show and just send my condolences to not only Bill Russell's family, but to all the Boston Celtics fans out there who I'm sure are grieving his loss right now. Another NBA story that we have, obviously the offseason's been pretty quiet for a little while now with free agency pretty much over. Not too many guys really left on the market. The Philadelphia 76ers are actually being investigated by the NBA for tampering. Tampering is, of course, when you kind of use some illegal tactics to lure a player to your team. Like when the Los Angeles Lakers, had made all those moves to ensure that they were going to have two max for free agent spots the summer before they signed LeBron James. You had Magic Johnson, and probably maybe it was 2 summers before. It was like one or 2 summers leading up to that big free agent because with LeBron and everybody, we knew the Lakers were going to go after like LeBron and some other big free agents and try to put together kind of like a super team kind of thing. Time the team president was of course Magic Johnson, and he was going out and saying kind of like saying what they were doing with their cap space, and kind of saying this is why we're an attractive destination, and the Lakers were fined multiple times for tampering, kind of saying Paul George I think would be a great fit for our team, and here's why. LeBron James would be a great fit for our team, and here's why. He would say things like that, and league said, can't do that. That's tampering. Also, like, there's a certain period where you can negotiate for agents. Like, there's a period where you can talk to them, but you can't sign them to contracts, and then eventually there's a window that opens that it's free for all. You can officially sign guys, go wild. And apparently the Sixers, who of course just finalized a 2-year deal worth $68 million with a player option with James Harden. They also signed PJ Tucker during free agency for 3 years and $33 million. Also signed Danuel House to a 1-year deal. Of course, PJ Tucker and Danuel House used to play with James Harden in Houston. PJ Tucker played a little bit more of a major role. He got some decent minutes on those Rockets teams. Danuel House more of a bench player, guy that kind of picked up and actually played pretty well. Hasn't played as well outside the Rockets, actually. Like he played well on those Rockets team as well. So just trying to get some team chemistry with their star James Harden. Of course, they also have Joel Embiid, of course, and some other guys. Apparently, they started talking to these guys before the legal tampering period, meaning before the window where they could talk to the players about signing contracts. They had already started talking to them. That is against the rules. They are investigating the Philadelphia 76ers. You had the one summer where you had all the free agents happen. You had the LeBron go to the Lakers, and then you had Kawhi go to the Clippers, and of course, Kawhi lured Paul George with him, and the Clippers made the big trades to get Paul George. In that crazy summer, there was a lot of supposed tampering, with Kawhi Leonard, obviously. He basically called up Paul George and, he, sold him on the Clippers and kind of convinced him to tell Oklahoma City Thunder, I want to get traded to the Clippers, even though they had signed to a big 4-year contract only about a year or so ago. And Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving obviously talked in the offseason and said, we should probably play together. They decided, for Kevin Durant to decide, I'm going to leave the Golden State Warriors and go play for the Brooklyn Nets, and Kyrie Irving just decided, okay, I'll leave the Boston Celtics and go play for the Brooklyn Nets. So, Adam Silver came out after that and said, I'm aware there was some stuff that went on this summer. If this ever happens again, there's going to be serious consequences. And from then on, they've come down pretty hard on certain teams that have picked those kind of things. So we'll see where this investigation goes, but that is an investigation that's going on right now. Sixers being investigated for tampering, and that's really what's going on in the offseason for the NBA. The Donovan Mitchell trade talks have been pretty quiet. There's a bunch of teams that are involved. Knicks still considered the favorite. I heard the Washington Wizards are involved. The Knicks are stalling a bit. Obviously, Jazz made an offer several weeks ago. I believe it was Obi Toppin, it was Emmanuel Quickley, Cam Reddish, and Quentin Grimes, and 6 first-round draft picks for Donovan Mitchell, but Knicks said no. I mean, you're giving up 6 first rounders. That's a lot. As a Knicks fan, I want Donovan Mitchell more than anything. I am praying that they can pull off this trade. And I didn't have a problem with the players. I mean, I really like Obi Toppin. I would like to keep him if he can. I like Emmanuel Quickley as well. But for Donovan Mitchell, I would trade those guys. I would trade those guys for Donovan Mitchell. And Reddish and Grimes, I think, can be some solid young players, especially Quentin Grimes, the guy who's a really good shooter. He can play defense. He's a kid that I like, drafting him in the second round last year. When healthy, I thought he played pretty well last year. But he's not proven yet. I would definitely trade him for Donovan Mitchell. And Cam Reddish, honestly, wasn't that impressive. Obviously at first he wasn't really getting any minutes. Tom Thibodeau wasn't really playing him. And he finally gave him some minutes, and I thought he played pretty well when he was healthy and he was getting minutes, but I think he's a guy who ended up being like a more of a role player than even anything close to being an all-star caliber player. So definitely don't mind trading him. But 6 first rounders for one guy, and you're trading Obi Toppin, who I think might be a future all-star, and Emmanuel Quickley, who I think could be a really good player as well. And 6 first rounders plus 2 other young players. You're trading 4 talented young players from 6 first rounders for one player. That's a steep price. I think, honestly, if they had said like 3 first round picks instead of 6, I think I may have done that deal. I didn't say yes if they say 3 first rounds instead of 6 first rounders. Even include all those players. I'm hearing the most likely scenario is the Knicks will throw in one of their bloated contracts, whether it be Julius Randle or whether it be Evan Fournier. And they'll give them a couple of young guys, whether it'll be probably some sort of combination of Obi Toppin, Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes. Cam Reddish, probably a combination of two or three of those guys. Probably 3 first round picks, something like that, maybe 4, definitely not 6. And then that'll end up being the deal. But there's other teams that are involved. The talks are kind of stolen right now, but still got a lot of time in this offseason. Utah clearly is looking to move him. They got a lot back for Rudy Gobert. They get back Patrick Beverley, who's obviously a very good player. He's pretty much won pretty much everywhere he's been. They got back Malik Beasley, who's a good young player. They got back Walker Kessler, who's a first rounder this year out of Auburn, very talented center. They got back a lot of first round picks. I think 3 of them were unprotected. And Donovan Mitchell is even better than Rudy Gobert. So if they can get something similar like that back for Donovan Mitchell, like they got for Rudy Gobert, which I'm sure is very possible, they're probably going to get a couple of good young players and probably 3 or 4 first-round draft picks, and probably a couple of them will be unprotected, possibly. That they can literally rebuild their team through these 2 trades. So that's it on the NBA front. We got a little bit of NHL news. John Klingberg, who's a really good defenseman, he's been with the Dallas Stars for a while. He signed a 1-year deal with the Anaheim Ducks, a 1-year deal worth $7 million. He's been very outspoken that he was unhappy in Dallas. He wanted to be traded. Dallas decided not to trade him. Part of it probably was because they knew they were going to have a shot to make the playoffs, and of course they got into the playoffs, but then lost in the first round this past year to Calgary Flames. And as expected, he leaves the Dallas Stars, signs a one-year deal with the Anaheim Ducks worth $7 million. Ducks had a very successful free agency. They signed a couple of former Rangers forwards in Frank Petrano and Ryan Strome. Frank Petrano got a 3-year deal. Ryan Strome got a 5-year deal. And now they take John Klingberg to help out their defense on a 1-year deal. They made a lot of trades at the trade deadline last year to get some young players and prospects back. They got pretty good young core, and now they add some veterans in Strome, Petrano to help their scoring attack, and now they add John Klingberg to help their defense. This could be a team that possibly could contend for a playoff spot. They were one of the better teams in the West earlier on last year. And then they started slumping. They were kind of hanging around the wild card race still, and then once they blew the team up at the deadline, they thought that was the best thing for their future. From there, they kind of fell apart. The Ducks make a big signing as they continue to make deals in free agency. There's still a couple of guys out there, including Nazem Kadri, who's a really good player. Of course, had a really good year with Colorado this year. Obviously, his memorable playoff run, winning the Stanley Cup, played very well in the postseason, battled their injuries. He's still available. So we'll see where he ends up going. Something else I want to talk about. So obviously, you have the Calgary Flames, just lost two guys in Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau. Johnny Gaudreau took less money to go to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Still got a lot of money. He I think over $9.5 million a year. Still got a 7-year deal worth over $68 million. But he could have gotten even more if he went back to the Calgary Flames. And Matthew Tkachuk could have signed a long-term deal with a very high AAV with the Calgary Flames. Probably would have been too far off from what he got when he got traded to the Florida Panthers. I believe he got an 8-year deal worth around $9.5 million a year. He said, I'm not going to sign here. Just to let you guys know. So the Flames ended up trading him and actually got a lot out of that trade to get back Jonathan Huda, who's an incredible player, a guy who can give you 40 goals and 100 points. Get back a really good defenseman in Mackenzie Weegar, as well as a prospect in a 2025 first rounder. It's interesting because I'm wondering if it had something to do with, because obviously Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk, their entire careers played for the Calgary Flames. Of course, Calgary is in Canada, and those two guys are American-born players. Johnny Gaudreau is from New Jersey. I'm sure that had a lot to do with why New Jersey Devils were one of the favorites to sign him. They actually got very close. Supposedly, he was almost basically closing in on a deal. They were in serious talks, and then the Blue Jackets, like he said, they were a team they had his eyes on for a while. They swooped in and made a similar offer, and he decided, I'm going to go do this instead of the New Jersey Devils. And of course, he would have gotten more money if he went back to the Flame, but he chose not to. And also, Matthew Tkachuk, he is from Arizona. So he is not from Canada either. So I wonder if, those two guys being from the United States, did that, play a role in them not wanting to re-sign in Calgary? I mean, Johnny Gaudreau, he turned down like almost $15 million more from the Flames than he did with the Blue Jackets, and they did with the Flames. And like he even before he signed that, like the Flames weren't even involved. He came out and said, "I'm not going to resign with the Flames." It was really down to the New Jersey Devils and the New York Islanders appeared to be the two finalists. And then all of a sudden, the Columbus Blue Jackets swooped in and said, we're going to sign him. And then that's what ended up happening. I guess he wanted to play closer to home, Johnny Gaudreau. He's from New Jersey. He was very close to signing in New Jersey. Of course, now he signs in Columbus, which, not that close to Jersey, but it's several hours away by car, but it's better than, an entire another country. I mean, Matthew Tkachuk, the thing is, like, he's from Arizona. And he's playing in Florida. that's not exactly that close to Arizona. So I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know why, when it comes to wanting to closer to home, why Florida? He also got traded. He didn't really choose. Like Johnny Gaudreau was an unrestricted free agent. He got to choose. Kachuk was a restricted free agent, and then Calgary, after being told by Kachuk, "I'm not going to sign a long-term deal with you," kind of like if you're saying you basically saying without saying it, you probably should trade me because I ain't gonna play for you. I ain't signing a long-term deal with you. And they traded his rights to the Florida Panthers, and of course the Florida Panthers are not going to give up all they gave up to not sign the guy, so they made sure to sign him to an 8-year extension worth $9.5 million a year, right when the trade was processed. Like Florida, of course, is all the way down south, and Arizona is all the way out west. But again, it's better than being in a whole other country. So now I start to wonder. I got another guy playing in a Canadian team, Austin Matthews, who's one of the best players in the NHL, just won the MVP, the Hart Trophy, had a huge year, had 60 goals this past season, was the Hart Trophy winner. He is also from Arizona. He's got, I believe, 2 more years left on his contract. In a couple of years, will he want to leave Toronto? If so, where does he want to go? That'll be interesting. I don't think he's gonna be going to Arizona. A lot of people say if you're the Coyotes, obviously you're playing in a college stadium that fits 5,000 people. You're a dumpster fire. You've been one of the league's worst teams for years now. You got all these bloated big contracts, all these upper 30s washed players. They just you take on their contracts to get some draft picks. You're terrible organization. I couldn't tell you who their coach was. They got they almost got locked out of their other building because they didn't pay the bill on the stadium, and they got certain allegations within their organization. I don't know what's going on. So I don't know why he would sign there. I think he'd do something like Johnny Gaudreau did. He signed somewhere close. Like obviously Johnny Gaudreau was from Jersey. He ended up signing in Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, Ohio. I have a friend who goes to Ohio State University. He lives out here on Long Island. They're very close to me. His house is probably about 7 minutes from my house, and I believe it's about 7 or 8 hour drive from my house at university to his house here on Long Island. And Jersey's about, depending where in Jersey, 2 to 3 hours from Long Island. So he's several hours away, but he can drive there in a few hours, opposed to being in Canada where he's obviously got to take a plane and to a whole different country. So I could see Matthews maybe signing, somewhere, where it's a few hours by car from where he's from. I don't see him going to Arizona. Like to say, the teammate drafted him, so he didn't want to stay. That being said, the Calgary Flames are the team that drafted Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk, and both those guys spent their entire careers there, were drafted by them, and they chose to leave. And I think a lot of it had to do with, them just wanting to play a little bit closer to home. I think even if they were playing like in the United States, following like the other side of the country, let's say if Johnny Gaudreau was playing for, let's say, somewhere in California, obviously that's the entire other side of the country, but at least he's in the same country. I think he may have resigned because he was in a whole other country. He was like, all right, let's get at least a little bit closer. I want to at least be able to drive to see my family, opposed to having to take a plane. I don't know what the status of Kachuk and Gaudreau is on this issue, but Canada also has their vaccination mandate still in place. The only country that really still has it. The U.S., for the most part, does not have it. California may still have it. New York, for the most part, has. The vaccine mandate has been dropped. California may still have it. They may have dropped it, I'm not sure, but all the other states, including New York, do not have it. Europe dropped their vaccine mandate a long time ago. Canada's still rolling with their vaccine, indoor vaccine mandate. That's why when, a lot of these teams play the Toronto Blue Jays in Toronto, a lot of their players can't play because they're unvaccinated. They can't play. That's why, like, when the Kansas City Royals went to Toronto, half their team was out. When the St. Louis Cardinals went to Toronto to play a series there, the two best players, Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, who were unvaccinated, could not play. They were down their two best players for that series. I don't know if that's a part of it. I don't know about the statuses when it comes to vaccination on Matthew Tkachuk and on Johnny Gaudreau, but I would think they probably have to be vaccinated if they played for them last year, but I don't know if they're a little bit weary of that, or maybe, if I don't know if the Flames have guys that, are in a little bit of trouble with that because they're not vaccinated and they're worried, that Canada may not drop the vaccine mandate for a while. Maybe they don't think they'll ever drop it or something like that, and I think, maybe that'll hurt the Flames from getting guys because there's still a lot of guys who are unvaccinated. Not only who are unvaccinated, but are showing no willingness to get the vaccine. I'm not saying that's good or bad; it's their choice. It's not what this podcast is about. It's a sports podcast, not a political podcast. Maybe Gaudreau and Kachuk looked at like they may not be able to lure players, and this is a team that, although they finished second in the West, lost in the second round to the Edmonton Oilers team that they probably should have beaten on paper. And now, he's thinking, can we really improve if we're not going to be able to lure free agents because of that? Certain guys who are unvaccinated are not going to be able to want to play there since they know the majority of their games. May not be able to play because they're unvaccinated. And some other guys might have the same view as Kachuk and Gaudreau. Will the team be able to really thrive because of that mandate? So that might be part of it too. But I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. I thought it was interesting that, both Kachuk and Gaudreau said not to resign there. I thought I think there's two parts of the reasons why I think. Part of it, I think these American-born players, would rather play in the United States where they're from, at least somewhat closer to where they're from, where their family lives. In Canada, like I said, both those guys are several hours away by car, so not that close, but it's better than flying from another country. It's in the same country. Maybe they're a little uneasy about Canada having their vaccine mandate because there is still a bunch of guys out there who are unvaccinated and don't seem to have any desire of getting the vaccine. So, that may be part of it. That's something that remains to be seen. Will we ever know? Who knows? For MLB, I want to go over the standings. We got the Twins are in first place in the American League Central with 52-47, but Cleveland is right on their tail. Cleveland is one game behind them. The White Sox are only 3 games out, and then Detroit and Kansas City round out that division. Obviously that's a very, very bad division. The Twins are only 5 games over 500, and they're still in first place. The White Sox are 1 game below 500, and they're only 3 games out of that division. They've been inconsistent all year, have had injuries. They're a game under 500, and they are still just 3 games out of the division. So that division is wide open. We'll see what those teams do at the trade deadline. AL East, Yankees continuing to run away with that. They are still a 12.5 game lead on the Toronto Blue Jays. That's a tough division. You got the Boston Red Sox were actually in last place. They're only a game under 500. They're struggling, but still, every team is over 500 besides Boston. It's only one game under. And the West, Astros continue to dominate, lead the Seattle Mariners by 12 games. On a crazy stat, the other day I saw a stat that the Seattle Mariners were 17-5 in their last 22 games, and all 5 losses in the last 22 games, only 5 losses I have, were all against the Astros. Meaning, at that time, it was a few days ago, the Mariners actually had a 17-game win streak against teams not in the Houston Astros. That's crazy. In the National League Central, on what's going on with the Central Division, they're both very, very weak. The Milwaukee Brewers are in first place right in that division, 56-44. They're 12 games over 500. St. Louis Cardinals are 3 games back, and then the Cubs, Pirates, and Reds round out the rest of that division. National League East, my New York Mets course, my favorite team, they would be Atlanta Braves by 3 games in the National League East. Those are two excellent baseball teams. And then you got the Phillies, the Marlins, and the Nationals rounding out the rest of that division. By the way, the Washington Nationals, 34-57. Ouch. They have the worst record in all of baseball. And National League West is a runaway by the Los Angeles Dodgers. They are 12 games ahead of San Diego Padres. And then the Giants, who are falling apart. And then are in third and followed by Arizona and Colorado. So for the playoff picture, we got for the wild card picture, we got about just over 2 months to go. We're heading into August. First day of August is tomorrow. We got Yankees have the best record in the American League still the best record in baseball at 68-33. We got the Astros are actually only 2 games behind the Yankees for the best record in baseball. The season ends today. The Astros will be playing the Twins in the division series in the wild card race. The first wild card right now is the Toronto Blue Jays. They got a 2-game lead for the first wild card. The second spot belongs to the Seattle Mariners. The third spot is the Tampa Bay Rays. Seattle's a half game ahead of Tampa for that. Second spot, Tampa has that last wild card spot. And on the outside looking in, you have the Cleveland Guardians are only a game and a half out. The Baltimore Orioles are only 2 games out of the wild card, which is crazy. And yet the Chicago White Sox are 3.5 games out. The Boston Red Sox are 3.5 games out. In the National League wild card race, best record over there is the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're 5 games clear of the next best team, which is the Mets. So the Mets, if he's in today, would play the Brewers in the division series. First wild card is Atlanta, who is running away with that first wild card. They got a 6.5 game lead for the first wild card. Of course, only 3 games behind the Mets for first in the division. Second wild card is the San Diego Padres. They got a 2.5 game lead for that second spot. The last wild card spot is actually a tie between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Philadelphia Phillies. They are tied for the last spot right now. As for teams on the outside looking in, it's not as many teams as in the American League. You got the San Francisco Giants are 4 games out of the wild card spot. Outside of that, you have the Miami Marlins are 6 games out. That last spot probably will come down to St. Louis or Philadelphia. We'll see who ends up winning that battle, but the San Francisco Giants are hanging by a thread, I guess you could say. Now let's talk about the trade deadline. The MLB trade deadline is tomorrow afternoon. The trade deadline is Tuesday afternoon, so we got 2 days until the trade deadline. The trade deadline is August 2nd. Usually in the past, it's been July 31st. They put it 2 days later. I don't know if they did that because of the lockout and this offseason they pushed the start of the season back a week, so the trade deadline will buy back a couple of days. We've had a few deals that have gone down. The New York Yankees made a trade to get Andrew Benintendi from the Kansas City Royals to give up 3 prospects in that deal. I think a really good deal for the Yankees. As you guys know, I'm a Mets fan, so I'm not a fan of the Yankees at all, but I can respect the move. He's a really good player, Benintendi. He came to the Yankees hitting over 320 with 39 RBIs. He's got like a 370 on base. Really good outfielder. Can play up the outfield spots. The Yankees really need an outfield bat. Of course, they get that in Benintendi. He's a good outfielder. Can play up the outfield spots. Can play center field, and the Yankees don't have a true center fielder. He's a guy who can get on base a lot. He's got 370 on base. He's hitting number 320. Also, the Yankees, really need more left-handed bats because of their short right field fence. Lefties have a big advantage in the Yankee Stadium. And the only impact left-handed bats the Yankees really have are Anthony Rizzo and Matt Carpenter. Joey Gallo, obviously, is not an impact bat. He's hitting 160, if that, right now. Had an abysmal season. They might actually trade him. They're looking to do so. I'm just not sure if anyone else will want him. I wouldn't want him, to be honest. So that's a really good move for the Yankees. He'll be a free agent at the end of the season. A few weeks back, they were talking about it. It made a lot of sense. But then they were kind of getting a little weird because he's unvaccinated, so we can't play in Toronto. And obviously the Yankees and Blue Jays are division rivals. Toronto's the first wild card right now. So if Toronto wins the wild card round, they may play the Yankees in the first round of the playoffs. And then eventually they were kind of like, screw it. He's exactly the player that we need right now to help us win a World Series. Because right now, at this point, it's World Series or bust for the Yankees. It always is, but when especially the Yankees are this good, they gotta go out and finish the job, and that's what they're looking to do. So, we'll worry about that when it comes. Obviously, there's no guarantee they're gonna have to play the Blue Jays in the playoffs. Not that they don't think they could beat them, it's just that if they don't want to not have one of their best players, for the series. So they decided to ramp up their trade talks for him, and they eventually made the deal happen. We had another big trade. The Seattle Mariners trade for Cincinnati Reds starting pitcher Luis Castillo. Gave up 4 prospects in that deal. It's actually definitely a win-win because Seattle gets one of the best pitchers in the National League. Of course, he comes to the American League. And the Reds get a big return. They get back 4 prospects in that deal. 3 of them being top 5 prospects in Seattle's system, including their top prospect, which was Novelli Marte, who's a shortstop playing in Single A. He's the 20th best prospect in all of baseball, and they got 3 other prospects as well. One of them was a top 100 prospect in all of baseball. The other 2 were not in the top 100, but one of them was top 5 in Seattle's system. So that puts Seattle probably with, I would say, the Yankees, the Mets, and the Astros and the Dodgers when it comes to having the best rotations in baseball. I got the Mets, who, breaking news, Jacob deGrom, the league's best pitcher who's been out all season, will return to the mound on Tuesday against the Washington Nationals for the New York Mets. So as a Mets fan, I'm very happy about that. When healthy, they have Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, plus Chris Bassett, Talon Walker, and Carlos Carrasco. Yankees lower than have Luis Severino right now. Sub Garrett Cole, Mr. Cortez has been great. Jerome Montgomery has been very good. Jimson Tyler has been pretty good in the rotation, and Luis Severino is expected back in a couple of weeks. And they are looking at Frankie Montas right now. Then the Cardinals and the Toronto Blue Jays appear to be the 3 finalists for Frankie Montas. Oakland A's starting pitcher, who's got a 3.2 ERA right now, so he's having a really good year. Yeah, but Dodgers, of course, have Clayton Kershaw. Even without Walker Buehler, they have Clayton Kershaw. They got Julio Urias. Tyler Anderson's had a big year. So they have a great rotation as well in Houston Astros. They got Verlander, who might be still selling in the American League right now. They got Luis Garcia, who's really good. They got Framber Valdez, very good. Jose Urquiz, pretty good. Christian Javier, even Jake Guadarez. They already have 6 quality starters in that rotation. And they got Lance McCullers, who's going to be returning from injury soon. So soon they'll have 7 very good starters. And that's the Seattle Mariners. They have Luis Castillo, who's got 2.8 ERA this year. He's a great pitcher. They also have Logan Gilbert to that breakout year, a sub-3 ERA. You have Robbie Ray, who's pitched very well since a slow start. Ranks Cy Young big free agent splash. Chris Flexen's got 3.75 ERA, and Marco Gonzalez has they got 3.6 ERA. So now they have built themselves a really good rotation. We'll see if Seattle goes on and gets another bat because they've shook a little bit offensively this year. And there's been a smaller trade, but the Tampa Bay Rays trade for Arizona Diamondbacks outfielder David Peralta. They give up a catching prospect in that deal. Peralta is a little bit past his prime at 34 last year of his contract. But he's hitting around 240 this year with 12 home runs. He's a pretty good outfielder. He'll boost the Rays line, but has a lot of injuries, especially in the outfield. They're down Manuel Margot as well as Kevin Kiermaier right now. For other trades, I'm hearing Juan Soto is probably going to be traded. The San Diego Padres appear to be the favorite to trade for him. Supposedly they're willing to offer up C.J. Abrams, their former top prospect, who's been in the major leagues a bunch this year. He showed a lot of potential, a young shortstop. Their top prospect, another shortstop, and Robert Hassel, as well as one of their top pitching prospects, and Adrian Morejon. I heard Washington wants like 4 or 5 their top young pieces and prospects, so they're still working on that. We'll see if they get anything down. There's some other teams that are involved. The Angels are listening in on Shohei Ohtani. He's only got 1 more year left of arbitration, and he may not re-sign with them, so they are listening on him. We'll see what happens on that front. I heard that he probably won't go trade. I heard the Mets actually called the Angels. Remember, their GM, Billy Epler, was the Angels GM that actually signed Ohtani from overseas to come play for the Angels. But they said they inquired about him, but they got the impression that Ohtani probably won't be traded, so they didn't look too deep into it. So we'll see what happens there. And you got, I've heard the Detroit Tigers are going to trade pretty much anybody. We'll see what happens there. I heard the Miami Marlins are going to trade anybody but Sandy Alcantara. Marlins are struggling again this year, as they have for a long time now. They're 6 games that have a wild card spot, and they're on the verge of getting swept by the Mets. So they're in a tough spot. Could Pablo Lopez, who's one of the best pitchers in the National League, get traded? We'll see. I know my Mets are talking to the Chicago Cubs about making a trade to get All-Star catcher Wilson Contreras, as well as their closer, one of the better left-handed relievers on the market, David Robertson. That would be a big deal for the Mets, because the Mets have gotten nothing offensively from their catchers, and Wilson Contreras, one of the best offensive catchers in baseball. Offensive production among catchers over really the last 2 years has been down almost historically, and they really need another reliever, especially from the left-handed side. The only left-handed reliever they really have is making an impact is Julio Rodriguez, and he's not even very good. So getting Robinson, who's had a great year, a left-handed reliever, give the bullpen a little bit of help aside that Edwin Diaz would be a big move. So we'll see if that goes through. Boston Red Sox are looking to sell now. They're looking to flip 3 guys who are going to be free agent at the end of the season. JD Martinez, who's a really good player, designated hitter. Their catcher, Christian Vasquez, who's had a good year. And starting pitcher, Nate Eovaldi, who's had an okay year. He's got a 4.43 ERA this year. Had some injuries, but had a very good year last year. He's got a lot of postseason success, including a World Series ring in 2018 with the Red Sox. We said Alexander Bogaerts and Rafael Devers, of course, they're 2-star players. Bogaerts may opt out this season, probably will. Rafael Devers has one more year left of arbitration. They will not be traded, apparently. San Francisco Giants, another team that is struggling, they're still hanging around. They're 4 games out of the wild card. Boston's been struggling, but they're 3.5 games out of the wild card. Giants also looking to sell. They got 2 big names who are going to be free agents, which are starting pitcher Carlos Rodon, will probably opt out of his contract. He's been one of the best pitchers of the National League this year. They're listening on him. And outfielder Jock Pearson, who was an all-star this year, having one of the best years of his career, has got 18 home runs already this season. He is also a guy that they are looking to trade. So we'll see who else gets traded. Like I said, Frankie Montas, Oakland A's starter, has got a 3.2 ERA this year, a really good starting pitcher. He's got another year of arbitration. The 3 finals appear to be the Yankees, the Blue Jays, and the Cardinals, so we'll see where he goes. A lot of big names are on the trade market. Should be really exciting in the next couple of days on the MLB trade front. Moving to the NFL, we got some contract news. The Seattle Seahawks gave DK Metcalf his contract extension he's been holding out all camp for. He got a 3-year extension worth $72 million. He is the 6th wide receiver to get a contract extension this offseason by at least $24 million. Wide receiver market exploded this year with A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, and others all getting big contract extensions. There's a lot of talent at the wide receiver position right now in the NFL. DK, who's a great receiver, gets a big contract from the Seahawks. Of course, had a tough offseason trading away Russell Wilson, and they also cut Bobby Wagner, who went up signing with the Rams. But decided to keep DK Metcalf. He signed a 3-year extension with the Seattle Seahawks. He was going into the last year of his rookie deal this year. Also, Kyler Murray, a little over a week ago, signed a 5-year extension with the Arizona Cardinals worth $230.5 million, making him the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. They also, at first, included a very weird clause in the contract. It was called a study clause, meaning that Kyler Murray needed to he needed to do a combination of where it was watching film and some sort of studying prior to each game for 4 hours a week each week, which seemed a little odd. Like, why would they put that in there? Shouldn't you be doing that anyway? Why should that be included in this contract? He should be doing that anyway. Was he not doing that before? Like, what's going on? And then Kyler was asked about it, and he did not say whether he agreed with it or not, but he kind of called it, people, saying that, he doesn't work hard enough and that, called that disrespectful. And the Arizona Cardinals stated that the clause was kind of causing distraction, so they removed it from his contract. Kyler Murray is known for being an avid gamer. He loves to play video games. I'm not sure if maybe they thought, he kind of was not studying as much for the games as they want him to, instead of playing video games. Of course, would be unacceptable. So they put it in, but then they realized it was causing a distraction. They gotta have trust in them to be their franchise quarterback. I drafted them to be, so they decided to remove it. Then I want to talk about why Kyler Murray, who doesn't have a single playoff win, although he's been very good, is very talented, got north of $46 or $47 million a year. And why all these quarterbacks are getting all these huge deals. You got, also Deshaun Watson got a huge deal. And this actually revolves around Deshaun Watson. All these quarterbacks saw the Cleveland Browns, traded Deshaun Watson, a guy who, although he's when he's on the field, is already top 5 in the game, has not played football in a year, has like 26 sexual assault cases against him. May never play again. You don't know how long it's going to be suspended. Could be suspended for, a year or two, maybe even be suspended indefinitely. Guy who only a year or two ago signed a $156 million extension worth $39 million a year over 4 years. Get a 5-year extension worth $230 million. Guy who hasn't played in a year and might miss another year or two possibly. So a guy like Kyler Murray is like, oh, this guy who hasn't played in a year may never play again is worth $230 million. I am as well. And next offseason, when Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are up for contracts, so that was probably going to go even higher. That's why a couple years ago, Dak Prescott, a guy who didn't have a lot of playoff success and definitely had some holes in his game, was able to get $40 million a year. So I think because of the Deshaun Watson deal, guys look like, oh, this guy is this horrible person hasn't played in the year. If he's worth $230 million, I'm worth it. I'm definitely worth even more than that. Even these guys who don't deserve these huge contracts, I think might be getting them. So I think the quarterback market in the NFL may now be exploding. Something to look out for. That's really all I got for NFL front. I want to talk about SummerSlam. SummerSlam. I'm not even going to talk about Raw and SmackDown from last week. At that point, no one even cares about it because SummerSlam just happened. It was an incredible show. It was the first show since Vince McMahon's retirement. The first show where Triple H, who's the head of creative, was the one kind of running the show over there. Was an incredible pay-per-view. Wrestling fans around the world loved it. Bianca Belair defeated Becky Lynch to win her Raw Women's title. Then after the match, they actually shook hands and hugged. Remember, last year at SummerSlam, Becky Lynch came out and surprised everyone and beat Bianca Belair in 26 seconds. And then Bianca beat Becky Lynch at WrestleMania to gain the title back. And now, of course, they've had a feud, which at the end of the day spanned the whole year, but really picked up over the last few months. Becky finally got her one-on-one match at SummerSlam, and Bianca beat her. And then afterwards, Bayley returned after almost a year. She was out, it seemed like over a year. She was out for around a year. She came back, and she did not come alone. She came out with Dakota Kai and Io Sky, formerly known as Io Shirai. Her name is now Io Sky. And then Becky Lynch actually stood tall with Bianca Belair and kind of helped her, and so that she didn't get jumped by those three ladies. But Bayley, of course, had a big rivalry with Bianca Belair going on. When Bianca was champ, and then she ended up getting injured, and Bianca even said when Bayley announced she was injured, that they have unfinished business, and Raw should be very, very interesting. I'm sure we will see Bianca and Bayley have some sort of face-to-face somehow, some way. We'll see where that goes. But supposedly Vince McMahon was totally against Bayley's faction of her, Dakota Kai and Io Sky. Triple H, a more reasonable and more, more reasonable, more competent guy running the show. He said, "Well, let it happen. That's what the fans want. We're going to give it to them. Triple H said, I want to get everyone's opinion. I want to give the fans the best product possible. I want, all these wrestlers to give me their opinion. I want the best product possible. Logan Paul defeated The Miz. It was a very good match. Logan Paul looked really good. He actually beat The Miz with Miz's own move, the skull crushing finale. It was a very good match. Bobby Lashley defeated Theory to retain the United States Championship. We had an interesting match in a tag team match. The Mysterios actually beat the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Edge, who of course started with Judgment Day, and then Judgment Day, which was of course Damian Priest, Finn Balor. You also had Rhea Ripley as well. They turned on him. This was actually a no disqualification match, but the team still had to tag in and out. Edge came back during the match and helped the Mysterios win. So we'll see what this sets up. You wonder, the Judgment Day was trying to recruit Dominic Mysterio. Is he going to turn on his father soon? We'll see. Pat McAfee defeated Happy Corbin. Michael Cole, who's Pat McAfee's broadcast partner, was extremely excited, was rooting for him the whole match. Pat McAfee knocks off Happy Corbin. He's now 2-0 in WWE ring. Of course, he beat Theory at WrestleMania. Then he had the whole thing with Vince McMahon, and Stone Cold came out. And now he beat Happy Corbin at SummerSlam. Gotta love some Pat McAfee. Between his podcast that he makes $10 million a year for, his electric commentary on the announce booth, him wrestling sometimes, he's something else, that guy. The Usos defeat the Street Profits in a tag team match to retain the tag team titles. That was an incredible match. I actually have a feeling that the Street Profits might be breaking up soon. I am not sure how much longer those two are going to be together. They both looked were really upset after the match. Montez Ford looked a little bit, angry after he got pinned to lose. I think, also Montez Ford's a guy, got that crazy 450 splash. He's really talented. I think if he were to get a singles run, I think could succeed. I'm not sure if Angelo Dawkins could, so I wonder if they would break them up to try to give Montez Ford some sort of singles run to see what he's got. So we'll see what happens. I think under Triple H that it's gonna be a lot more entertaining. So we could see, possibly you see some things brewing, such as possibly Dominic Mysterio possibly turning on his father and possibly joining the Judgment Day, possibly the Street Profits possibly breaking up. Maybe to give Montez Ford, give him a little bit of a run. Now possibly could Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair possibly be teaming up. Bayley's back and she's got her own faction with Dakota Kai and IL Sky. I almost said Io Shirai. It's not her name anymore. And we had Riddle came out. Of course, him and Seth Rollins were supposed to have a match. The match got canceled for some reason. Riddle was not supposed to be there. Comes out, called him out. Seth Rollins came out. They started brawling. Seth knocked him down and stomped him once again. And then we had Liv Morgan defeated Ronda Rousey to retain the SmackDown Women's title, but it was not without controversy because Liv Morgan pinned Ronda Rousey, but she was tapping out while the count was going on. But the referee didn't see her tap out, so then Ronda got really pissed after the match and attacked not only Liv Morgan, but also the referee. So we'll see what happens this Friday on SmackDown. And in one of the best, probably one of the best SummerSlam main events ever, Roman Reigns defeated Brock Lesnar to retain the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. What a matchup that was. At one point, Brock Lesnar, who entered the ring on a tractor, picked up the ring with his tractor and knocked Roman Reigns out of the ring. At one point, he picked up Roman Reigns in the tractor and dumped him on the tractor into the ring. That match was crazy. You had tables. You had Brock. He put Paul Heyman through the announcing with an F5. The Usos, interfered, of course. Roman won the last man standing match. That was an incredible match. That might be those two, Brock and Roman's best match ever. Those matches were just always seemed to be very good, but that match was incredible. Austin Theory tried to cash in when they were both down at one point during the match. He bashed Roman with his briefcase. He handed the thing to the referee before the match. It started. Brock pummeled him, which stopped Theory in his tracks. So Theory did not cash in. So Theory thought he was going to get back his U.S. Championship from Bobby Lashley and then cash his Money in the Bank after the last man standing match. Not only did he get his U.S. title back, but wasn't able to cash in either. He still has a Money in the Bank. He didn't fail at it, but yeah, tough night. I did not go according to plan. I wonder what the plans for now. I think under Vince, because obviously Vince was the one who obviously was pushing him. It looked like Theory was going to kind of almost take over WWE. Now with Vince gone, will Triple H just kind of be like, will he give him the run that Vince wanted him to get? We'll see. Maybe, will we just have him cash it in and not do it successfully? Will we have him do so, but he'll only have a short run? So we'll see what happens there. I actually was thinking. Shout out to another caster who has some casts on ColorCast, C Mac McBride. He brought up something on another fellow caster of mine who also has a very good show on ColorCast. Cap No Caps, impromptu with Cap show on ColorCast. His prediction for the match was Roman wins, Theory tries to cash it, and Paul Heyman turns on Roman Reigns and goes to Theory, and he helps Theory win. Didn't quite happen, but I thought that something that possibly could have happened, but not quite. But still was an incredible match, and what an incredible pay-per-view SummerSlam was. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, so long, and have a great day.